I get it, you are scrolling through endless subwoofer options, trying not to waste a few $100s on something that won't actually move the crowd the way you need it to. You've probably heard the hype about massive low-end and plug-and-play power, but you also know that a sub that's loud on paper can end up sounding like a rattling box if it's not the right fit for your setup. That hesitation is real, especially when you're juggling venue size, transport logistics, and a budget that can't afford a misstep. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The QSC KS118 isn't just another 18-inch cabinet, it's a fully active subwoofer that ships with its own 3600-watt Class D amplifier and onboard DSP that automatically protects the driver while trying to squeeze as much clean bass as it can. What that means for you is you don't have to hunt for an external amp or spend time dialing in crossover points. The unit does the heavy lifting out of the box. Still, the question is whether those features translate into real-world value for the kind of gigs you run. If you're a mobile DJ who regularly plays weddings, corporate events, or club nights in venues that range from a 1-200 square foot ballroom to a 2-500 square foot hall, the KS118 hits a sweet spot. The deep mode, which you can toggle with a simple button, pushes the low-frequency extension down to the point where the floor itself starts to vibrate. In a wedding reception, that extra depth can make the bass line of a pop anthem feel like a physical pulse that gets people on the dance floor. Because the DSP is built in, you can walk away from the rack and let the sub handle its own protection. You won't be worrying about blowing a fuse if the bass spikes during a kickdrum-heavy track. Transportability is another area where the KS118 earns points. The enclosure is rugged, with padded handles that feel solid even when the sub weighs a respectable 70 pounds. The M20 threaded pole receptacle on the back lets you slot a 35mm pole for quick vertical deployment, so you can stand it up in a seconds-long motion rather than wrestling with a stand that needs bolts and a wrench. For a DJ who lives out of a van and has to set up in a hurry, that convenience is more than a nicito. It's a time saver that directly impacts how many gigs you can book in a day. Now, let's talk about who should probably walk away. If you're a home theater enthusiast looking for a sub to tuck under a couch, the KS118 will likely overwhelm your space. Its sheer output can drown out dialogue in a movie, and the power draw, you'll need a dedicated 120V line with a decent breaker, isn't something a typical living room outlet can handle comfortably. Similarly, a small coffee shop or boutique retail store that only needs subtle ambience will find the sub's big room character excessive. In those cases, a smaller powered sub, perhaps in the 12-inch range, would give you the low end without the risk of turning the room into a bass-driven echo chamber. One practical weakness to flag is the need for proper power infrastructure. The 3600-watt Class D amp is efficient, but it still pulls a substantial amount of current, especially when you're running in deep mode. If you've ever tried to power a large PA system from a generator that's already straining under lights and mixers, you'll know that the sub can become the weak link if you don't have enough headroom. The unit doesn't come with a built-in power conditioner, so you'll either need a reliable venue supply or a separate power management solution to keep the system stable. Another nuance is the way the sub integrates with your main speakers. The onboard DSP does a decent job of protecting the driver, but it doesn't replace proper system tuning. If your main PA is already heavily bass-heavy, you'll need to manually adjust the crossover on your mixer or use a separate crossover unit to avoid a muddy low-end pileup. The KS118 offers a selectable crossover point, but the range is limited, so you might find yourself tweaking the main system rather than relying solely on the sub's internal settings. The optional KSLOC security cover is worth a mention for anyone who leaves gear unattended for any length of time. It's a simple lockout that prevents accidental changes to the deep mode or power switch, which can be a lifesaver for a touring crew that hands the sub off to different technicians throughout a night. The cover isn't a requirement, but it does add a layer of peace of mind that many portable systems lack. Looking at the numbers, the KS118 carries a 4.4-star rating from 74 reviewers, which suggests a generally positive reception among those who've taken it on the road. While we don't have individual snippets to quote, the aggregate score indicates that users appreciate the combination of power, portability, and the built-in DSP. It also hints that the few detractors probably fall into the wrong application category.